Hello and welcome to episode 29. So what we're going to be covering today are Python modules. You've seen modules before, we've used modules before in this series, but now we're going to write our own little module just to show how they work. And modules are very, very common in programming. You'll use them all the time. And if you didn't want to use modules, you'd be writing everything by hand. So as you can see, I have the 29.py file, and I have this file called mymodule.py. So inside of mymodule.py, we'll just create a pretty simple function. We'll just call it myfunc. It will not take any arguments. And all we're going to do in here is just print that this is inside my module, just so we know where it's coming from. Now we're going to switch back to this 29.py, which currently we don't have anything here. So we're going to import my module. And that's it. And you've seen this import statement before, and all that's doing is saying to import the contents of this file, this .py file, this .python file, which is our module, so we have access to those inside this 29.py file. And if we try to access them without this import statement, it won't work. We'll get an error. We'll get probably undefined as the error type. But you can see now that we have my module, and we called it myfunc, and we can execute that right here. And then all we have to do is open up our terminal, and we run this 29.py, and you see that we get the print from the mymodule.py file as our output, even though we're executing it inside 29.py. And you can pass whatever in here too. If we want to pass in something like a name or a string of any sort, we can just pass in we're just going to call it a string. And then you can say whatever you want here. Plus string and string. We'll do that there. And you see that we're getting the same output. Obviously that doesn't make any sense, but just to show you that that string is getting passed in to my module, and specifically the function called myfunc. We're passing it in here. This is the string variable, and then my module is returning the output of printing this is inside my module plus the string. So all you need to create any module is just to save the code in any file you want with the .py after it, and then you can import it. And just make sure that when you're using a function from inside a module, we're using this dot notation here, and then that has access to this function. So if we can even just clone this function for simplicity. We'll just copy paste it, and we'll just call it myfunc2, and make sure our indentation's good. Save, come back here. And then if we execute, you see that we get the first function call and the second function call. So that's how you can do that, and it's really nice to break up any kind of program or app that you're writing so that all of these functions are in files that make sense, and then you're only using what you need as well. So just like you've seen us import other modules before, like TimeIt, we imported that one. This is how it's made and how it's running behind the scenes. And on top of functions, you can also just save any kind of variable in here, any variable that we normally have access to. So we can just say like whatever, dog1 here, and then we'll just make it a dict. We'll have name, and dog1's fine, and then age 10. So we have this dog here. We've already imported it, and we'll be able to execute this too by just assigning it to any variable that we want. So we do mymodule dot dog1, and then we can get anything we want out of there by grabbing the key for the value, and then we can just print x. So what we're doing is we're accessing my module we're accessing the variable dog1, and then we're searching for the key name, which should give us back the value dog1. Then we're assigning that to x, and now inside of our other program we're actually printing the value of x. So as you see here, we get dog1 as our output. If any of that's confusing, just practice a little bit and it should make sense. Whenever anything with a key or a value is confusing to me, sometimes I'll just change the key and the value to the words key and value, the strings, and then it kind of helps you see where it's exactly coming from. So you can name a module whatever you want as long as you have this .py. And if we don't like typing my module, which we really don't, you can use this as keyword here. So, which basically renames it, and you'll see this in a lot of coding languages with slightly different syntax maybe, but we can just import this one as mm for my module, and then instead of, see now we're having an error here with my module function, we can just do mm, and then it's fine accessing it again. And that just allows you to really shorten the syntax, and if anyone wants to know what module you're doing, especially if it's a long name module, which they do exist, sometimes that just makes it a lot easier. And then if we come down here and run it, we're still getting the same output, so nothing's broken. It's working perfectly fine. This is called an alias. So we created an alias for my module. We chose mm. You can choose whatever you want. So Python has a bunch of built-in modules as well. So like I said, we've already used a couple of them, but for this we'll just import platform. For our example, we'll just take y here, we'll make it equal to platform.system, which is a function, so we'll execute that, and then we'll just print y here, and we'll go ahead and comment these out really quick. So comment those out, then we can come down here, we'll run it, and you see that it says Windows. I'm running Windows, that's why it's Windows. Don't judge me. There's also a function called dir, like a directory function, and it will list all of the function names or variable names in a module. So for this one, we'll actually go back to our original module. So I'll just comment these out really quick, and then we'll come in here and we'll say now we're going to assign x, which equals dir. We're going to pass into that for my module, the module we built. And then we'll print x, and we'll see what's inside of my module. So you can see here that it has the automatic module functions, these dunder ones, the default ones, but then it also has the functions that we built and the variable. So dog1's a variable, my function and my function 2 are both functions. And this is useful because several modules are very large, and you might only want one thing or two things from a module. So what you can do for that is, instead of this normal import statement here, which I'm going to copy and paste this just because I want the original syntax if you're following along in your notes, and we'll comment that out. So here we can say, instead of import my module as blank, we can actually, I'll just delete it actually, we'll just say from my module, right, import, and then we can just import what we need. So we'll just import dog1 here. And then we still have access to dog1. See, these are now not working because we got rid of the mm. So we'll just come down here and we can print, and we can say dog1, and we can access the key in there. So we'll just say name. Do that. Run our file. We see that we still have dog1. Now if we try to do something like the other functions and stuff that we haven't imported, we'll get an error, and you'll see that sometimes. So for instance, we can assign x again to my func, right, and you can already see that we're getting an error, and then we'll try to pass in string again, and then we can print x, and when we come down here and try to run it, you see that we get this my func is not defined, and that's because we didn't import it. But if we import the entire module, we have access to my func, just like we did up here. So Make sure that you're importing anything you need, and a lot of times you don't want to import the extra baggage. And when you're importing using this from my module, import dog1, notice that we're not using like my module or mm.dog1 and then accessing the key, because we're telling it specifically what to import. So we're just accessing this variable directly. We don't need to restate which module it's coming from because it's just giving us access to this. So for instance, what we don't want to do is print my module.dog1 name. So this one won't work, and I'll actually just run that really quick to show you the error on that, and I can get rid of this. And you can already see that we have the error, but here you go. So my module itself is not defined because we're only pulling dog1 from my module. So do not do this if using from. Okay, that wraps up our intro to modules. You can mess around with that. If you want to do any exercises, they're on w3schools.com. And thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just leave a comment, and thank you.